Kettlebell racked squat is a foundational exercise that is a one-armed progression from goblet squat. Due to unilateral loading with kettlebell being held on one side, this exercise is more challenging for your core muscles. The position of the kettlebell in front of the body forces you into a more upright position and trains your mid-back muscles. So here are the main technique points for the squat. First, the best squat happens when you sit between the legs rather than on top of the legs. Keep your knees in line with third toes, keep your feet as parallel as possible, and have a strong rack position. A strong squat will mean your back stays straight at all times and that your torso is as vertical as possible. Squat is a knee-dominant movement, therefore there should be minimal hinging at the hip. Due to high incidence of raising of the heels, I will mention this. Make sure that your heels stay flat on the ground at all times. Heel drive is what activates your posterior chain and switches on your glutes, hamstrings, and back muscles. To put it simply, if you want to have a healthy and powerful squat, keep your heels down. One of the squatting errors is sitting on top of the legs rather than between the legs by pushing your knees excessively forward. This leads to muscle imbalance and knee injuries. To avoid this error, push your thighs apart when you're squatting and sit between your legs rather than on top of them. Aim to feel a stretch in your groin at the bottom of every squat. Next error is collapsing forward in any region of the spine. This happens due to tight hamstrings and weak or unengaged back muscles. Make sure your back is completely straight throughout the entire exercise. If you have to temporarily reduce your depth to allow for straight back, do so. In the meantime, stretch your hamstrings and strengthen your back muscles. One of the most common errors I see is excessive hinging from the hips. The reasons for that are weak glutes, tight hip flexors, and tight calves. As much as you can, focus on driving your hips down and keeping your chest up when you squat. Parallel to that, stretch your hip flexor muscles and calf muscles and activate and strengthen your glutes. Another very common squatting error is one or both knees collapsing inwards. This error is the biggest cause of knee injuries worldwide. It can be caused by numerous factors relating to weakness of one group of muscle and tightness of another. Use the tips you see on the screen, but in parallel work with a specialist on your individual issue. Another common error is turning the toes out paired with dropping the knees in. It massively reduces your strength in the squat in addition to damaging your knees. To avoid this, try to not turn your feet out more than 45 degrees and point your knees in the same direction as a third toe of each foot. This problem is caused by tight soleus muscle, so stretch your calves frequently. Last error commonly seen in kettlebell training is kettlebell being out of control during squats. When the kettlebell is in between front rack or shoulder rack, it is not a safe or stable position for the shoulder. Choose one rack. In this case, it is the front rack, and stick with it consistently for the entire set. Enjoy and see you next time.